If you can recall on Monday, Chris, I had one word to describe these 2023 Pittsburgh Steelers after they lost to the Cardinals. Do you remember what that word was?
I do.
What was that word?
Untrustworthy.
Okay. I went on a really long rant, and then you said cooler heads are going to prevail here. And you gave me the level-headed. You brought me down a little bit. Got level. And then Thursday Night Football happened. And guess what? I'm not going to yell today. I'm not going to rant today. I'm just going to sit here and say, I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. Good afternoon, everybody. Therapy Monday for all. 3 p.m. Southside Beat. DK Pittsburgh Sports on YouTube. He's Chris Halicke. I'm Corey Crisan. Let's go. Steelers 18. Patriots 21. Let's do it, Chris. We said it was going to be sloppy and ugly. We didn't think the over would hit at halftime, I could tell you that. But what we can say...
Almost midway through the second quarter.
But what we can say right now... Yeah, Friday, not Monday. Whatever day it is. Therapy Monday on a Friday. But what we can say... Just when you thought rock bottom hit, here's the new low. This is what this team is. This is what the Steelers are under Mike Tomlin right now. And you see it from the headline, and you've seen it, I'm sure, nationally is talking about it, locally is talking about it. Put Mike Tomlin on the hot seat in some fashion. It's time to start doing it. DK wrote the column. I vehemently agree with it. It's time to start the conversation.
This is where I come from because I think everybody, who watches this show regularly knows where I stand with Mike Tomlin as a coach. I think he gets too much criticism, from fans for the most part. The head coach is an easy target for when things aren't going well. That being said, Logan kind of puts it into perspective here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it safe to say Tomlin has lost his locker room? I don't know if it's safe to say that yet. But the thing that sticks out to me about this stretch of 5 days of losing, being the first team in NFL history to be over 500 and to lose to back-to-back games to teams that were 8 games or worse under 500. To play those games, it's not even just the fact that they lost them. It was the manner in which they lost them. Sloppy. No details. No attention to detail. No urgency. No fire. And, it happens in one game. Sure. Okay. Trap game. Call you put whatever label you want to on it. When it happens in the next game, that's where I'm watching the game last night, and I'm just like, I don't think he does not have control of his team like he normally does. I don't know if he's completely lost his locker room, but that was an embarrassment in terms of effort.
They quit. They quit.
It's not even just that. It's effort isn't just trying hard. Effort goes into a lot of things. It goes into playing with urgency. It goes into attention to detail. It goes into body language. There's a lot of different things. And George Pickens pretty much pouting all game long, like whether it be on the field or on the sideline. That stuff usually kind of ticks me off. And honestly, I think there's a bit of a double standard here. I think if Deontay's doing that, he's public enemy number 1 right now.
Yep.
But
if you're
either way,
criticize Deontay, criticize George. Absolutely.
But either way, what I'm saying is that I honestly don't really blame him too much. That was an embarrassment last night.
Did you see the route tree?
Yeah.
It's malpractice.
To be fair, that is like on targets. That's not every single route he ran, but it's still bad.
5 catches for 19 yards. What is that?
Yeah,
that's malpractice.
Yeah. I've got a Chalk Talk piece coming. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to drop, but I've got it coming. It's going to be on another detail of the offense, of why this offense, regardless of who is the coordinator, who is doing all this stuff, why the ceiling is down here and not all the way up here. And it's, and a lack of hot routes is one of them. The fact that you go into a 4th and 2 play without any kind of plan for potential blitz, which the Patriots did. You got to have something where you have a better play call than that. And Tomlin is over all of that. And Tomlin sat behind that podium last night when DK asked about the 4th and 2 call, said, yeah, that's the play. We wanted to be aggressive.
What a horrible time to choose to be aggressive.
Well, and see, that's the thing is that, okay, yeah, be aggressive, but you need 2 yards or the game's over. That's the lowest percentage throw you could possibly call at that time. And the fact that Tomlin okayed that on top of everything else that I'm talking about, lack of effort, no urgency, no fire against 2-2 teams. That to me is the beginning of okay, I think it is now more than fair to have the conversation of, is it seriously time to move on from Mike Tomlin?
Here's what I think it's time to do. Plan the exit strategy. It's so fitting to me that this new level of low for this franchise, and this isn't Bubby Brister years, but let's not get nuts, okay? This level has been achieved at the hands of Bill Belichick, who has historically owned Tomlin.
Mm-hmm.
How fitting is it? And look at Bill Belichick's situation. It's not being really talked about, or there's really no concrete information out there of how it's going to happen, but it's pretty foregone that by now the writing's on the wall for Belichick in New England, right? His time's done, right? Andy Reid, when he was in Philadelphia, his time was done. It feels like this is the start of that. The writing is being written onto that wall for Mike Tomlin.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the dated thinking, the dated philosophies, the archaic ways of approaching roster building and construction, and how the personnel and the coaching staff handles it, and the number of coaches to make that a point.
Yeah.
This way of thinking, I've said it before, does not work. The proof has been there. In every season since 2017. They haven't won a playoff game since January of 2017 at the end of the 2016 season. They have been mediocre, 500 type ball club, even despite the phantom 11-0 start. And then they completely crap the bed for the rest of the season and then the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Everything since that last playoff win in 2016 against the ghost of Alex Smith in Kansas City, pre-Patrick Mahomes. Everything's been mediocre. The standard is the standard, right? The standard's 9-8. It's a great feat. I don't want to underscore this. It's a great feat that Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. That is, for as long as he's done this, incredibly hard to do. Don't want to take that away from him. I don't want to take a Super Bowl championship away from him and another appearance away from him. I'm not doing it. But what I will say is this. Father Time never loses. Father Time never loses. Father Time has caught up to Mike Tomlin.
I think it's interesting because, when you look at some other long tenured coaches, I'm looking at guys like, or guys, guys who have coached for a long time, doesn't necessarily have to be with one team. Obviously, Bill Belichick's in that conversation, John Harbaugh, Andy Reid, these guys have been in the league for a long time. John Harbaugh has had a lot of success with the Ravens, won a Super Bowl. Obviously that was, a little while ago. They're in contention for the division just about every year, just like the Steelers usually are. Not so much in the past couple seasons, but the thing that I'm beginning to really, really see from Mike Tomlin other than the displays on the field the past 2 weeks, is also, as you mentioned, refusal to change, refusal to try to evolve. There's a way of doing things, and whether that's the Steelers way, whether that's the Tomlin way, whether those are one and the same, or they are two things that go hand in hand together. There has to be change this offseason, regardless of how this season plays out. They could win the final 4 games of the year. I have no faith that they will do that. I'm just saying hypothetically.
I have no faith they win more than one, if that.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying hypothetically, even if they win out and make it to the playoffs and get bounced in the first round, then you could be like, oh, well, they made it to the playoffs again, at least, blah, blah, blah. There has to be change. You cannot look at the body of work over 13 games and think we're almost there. No, you're not even close. There's a lot of things missing here. Well, actually, no, there's not. There's only a few things missing. They're just really, really big things. An offensive coordinator that understands concepts that work in today's NFL.
What a concept. What an idea.
That's a big thing.
Brilliant.
Whenever you feel like jet sweeps are the modern technology in the NFL, you have to go back at least another decade to see that. That crap's ran in high school. I mean, come on. It's just that's really the only thing, because we know that Tomlin's not going to get fired. And I think the only way that Art Rooney II is even possibly considering the end of Tomlin's tenure is the fact that his contract is up at the end of next season.
Yeah.
And that the only way that he's really thinking about that is not having extension conversations with him this offseason and using that as motivation to being like, fix this now. Yeah. And part of me is curious about that, because Mike Tomlin did pull the trigger on firing Matt Canada. Steelers haven't fired a coach in the middle of a season since 1941. So that's a break of precedence.
Yep.
So maybe, just maybe, Mike Tomlin will consider going through a well-vetted interview process to get a capable coordinator in here. And I said it last night in the live file, I'm good with keeping Eddie Faulkner as running backs coach, not as an interim OC, obviously, but as running backs coach, he's good. I like Alfredo Roberts as tight ends coach. Everybody else can go.
Yeah.
On the offensive side, everybody else can go. Frisman Jackson, Pat Meyer, Mike Sullivan, they can all go.
Brian, I'm going to, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to serve a little bit of a piece of pie here. It's not humble pie, but it's some kind of pie that's going to be really hard to swallow here, okay? The Steelers have been the anomaly over the last 25 years in the NFL. 20 years, maybe even, dating at least to Roethlisberger. So call it 19, I guess. And that is sustainability as afforded by quarterback head coach, okay? I don't want to undermine accomplishments, okay, from the Ben years, the Cowher years, and the Tomlin years. But let me put it to you this way. What the Steelers did in such a long run doesn't happen often in sports, let alone the NFL. I'm not going to say, maybe I will say it. You want to talk fat, sassy, and spoiled? The definition of spoiled is what the Steelers are, what they give to their fan base. This kind of thing doesn't happen where they're contending for Super Bowls every single season. Yeah. On a consistent basis, where they have a quarterback that is there for almost 20 years, where they have a head coach. They have had 3 head coaches in the franchise's history, dating to Chuck Noll. Mm-hmm. This does not happen in sports. The Steelers are the anomaly. This is getting down back to reality. And I understand the standard is the standard, as Carl points out here. But let me tell you this. As I said a little bit earlier, Mike Tomlin's standard versus the standard held to himself by the fans are not the same thing anymore. The standard that Mike Tomlin holds his team, and that's a very emphasized point I want to make. His team, his quarterback, his running back, his wide receivers, his defense, his players, he handpicks for those roles and his system. They're not upholding the fan standard.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tomlin's standard is preached at will in that building. The standard is the standard. They have a standard they want to live up to. They know that that standard is not being met. But I'm afraid that this is what the new standard has become.
Yeah, it's the problem is, I think listen, it is a difficult balance, because the last thing fans should want the Steelers to do is become an organization that flaps in the wind and that makes changes the moment things get look terrible.
To interrupt, do you know how many organizations do this? Many do this.
I understand that.
That's the point I wanted to drive home.
Right.
How lucky the Steelers have been with regards to that. Please.
But your point does bring up a really, really big piece of why the Steelers are where they are. And believe it or not, it's actually not all on Mike Tomlin. Now,
I agree with that.
Again, I will say this. I will say, and I will concede that I think is at least time to have a legitimate conversation about, is the Tomlin tenure coming to an end sooner rather than later? I do think that is warranted now. I don't think that he is not only above criticism, but his seat should be getting a little warm, for at least at bare minimum. However, and again, this is not excuse making. This is just reality here. A big reason why Mike Tomlin has had the success he's had during his tenure as Steelers head coach, like you said, is because of Ben Roethlisberger. Having a franchise quarterback, having a future Hall of Famer as your quarterback is a big fixer-upper for a lot of teams.
You can't overlook that at all.
No. And no matter what you think Kenny Pickett can possibly be, the fact of the matter is, and the fact that people even tried to argue this earlier in the season, that Kenny Pickett and rookie Ben Roethlisberger were somehow on the same page, is ridiculous. But anyway, that Kenny Pickett right now is nowhere near the quarterback that Ben Roethlisberger was, even whenever he was near the end of his career. And if you want a reason why, at least Ben was able to carry that team a little bit to the playoffs, just to get shellacked in the first round by the Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. But
here's a take for you. Ben retired 2 seasons too late. 2 seasons, not 1, 2.
I'd say 2019 should have been his last. When the arm went, he was done.
And that set things back. That's also a point to this. Another point to this is Art Rooney, that I think is a point that at some point needs to be addressed in the power that Art Rooney allocates to that building, and how things are parsed and how things operate underneath him. I think that's another point, but we're talking about Ben, obviously. I think Ben retired 2 seasons too late.
Yeah. Steergo says Kenny Pickett wasn't in. No, Kenny Pickett wasn't in this game. This is not just a reaction to this game. This is a reaction to what Kenny Pickett is as a quarterback right now. You know why I'm not giving Mitch Trubisky a pass. He was terrible last night. I'm not skirting that whatsoever. But do you know why I almost want to say nothing about Mitch Trubisky? Because it doesn't matter. There's no future with Mitch Trubisky. It doesn't matter. The dude sucks. We know that. He's bad. We know that. The reason why there's so much scrutiny around Kenny Pickett is because there is at least hope there that there is a future with him. Hence, the Steelers used a first-round pick to acquire him, to get him. That is why there's so much scrutiny with Kenny Pickett. It's not because, you're a Kenny Pickett hater if you're talking about how bad his play is. No, it's not that at all. It's, listen, these are the problems that he has. You need him to become this guy up here, and he's still way down here, and his development has been terrible. Now, I still want to see what Kenny Pickett does with a legitimate offensive coordinator. I do. I'm not pulling the plug on Kenny Pickett. What I'm saying is that the Steelers do not have the quarterback play with Kenny Pickett, with Mitch Trubisky, with Mason Rudolph, with Trace McSorley. They don't have the quarterback play to elevate everything else that's wrong with this team whenever even whenever he was a shade of himself in 2020 and 2021, that he was able to do to elevate the team.
And why is that? Why? Because the requisite coaching, the requisite coordinator are not there to usher Kenny Pickett's development. We said it at the end of last year. It was never second-guessed once that Matt Canada should have been gone after last year for the betterment of Kenny Pickett. That's a whole other thing that we have discussed ad nauseum by this stage. Mike Tomlin does not have the requisite offensive personnel to benefit his quarterback. That is a problem. Look when Ben was here, okay? At all the offensive coordinators he went through. But look at the names that are around him, okay? Namely Bruce Arians, of course. And you could go down the list if you want. But at least Ben had the requisite coaching, the requisite offense, the requisite personnel to develop and become that kind of caliber player. I'm not going to say Kenny Pickett's ever going to get to Ben's level. I will never say that until it actually happens. But you have to at least put the right people in the right places for the betterment of the football team, for the betterment of the player. And that development was hindered the second they decided to retain Matt Canada for this season. Yeah. That's a whole nother topic of discussion. And I don't want to get too far from it. And I'm afraid if I keep going, I'm going to. I fell asleep at 7 o'clock in the morning today. I am tired. Okay. I am tired. I'll put it that way. So if I have the shark eyes, as somebody mentioned in the live chat, that's why I am full of it today. If you saw the clip that I tweeted before the show, that's how I feel today. Yeah. Hallelujah. Holy bleep. Where's the Tylenol? Shout out to Chevy Chase and Christmas Vacation. That's how I feel today.
There's a really good point here by Matt saying Tomlin has never really developed a quarterback from start to finish. This kind of goes into the whole Ben retired too late thing. I don't know if it's that Ben retired too late. Is they didn't have a plan for life after Ben Roethlisberger. Their plan was draft Mason Rudolph. Their plan was draft Josh Dobbs. And no, I'm not doing this in order.
Landry Jones. Yeah, their plan. Hodges.
Yeah.
What the hell?
There's no. I mean, Chris Oladokin. I mean, like it's just there was Chris Oladokin was the draft after
he was the draft with Kenny.
Yeah. So that name doesn't apply. I'm just going through all the quarterbacks not named Kenny Pickett that they've drafted in the last several years. But either way, they did not have a plan for life after Ben Roethlisberger. And, the one you look at another organization in the NFL that is kind of the same, in terms of the way that they operate, the way that they do things.
New England.
I'm saying Green Bay Packers.
Well, and New England. Same thing.
But Green Bay Packers, they had a plan for life after Brett Favre.
Okay.
They had a plan for life after Aaron Rodgers. And now Jordan Love, all of a sudden,
looks okay.
He's progressing. He's progressing. Yeah. And this is his first real season, playing. Like, obviously when
you have Matt LaFleur guiding you, that helps.
Offensive line coach, that helps. Now, and granted, the Green Bay Packers have typically been more of an offensive team over time while the Steelers have been typically a defensive team. So it makes sense that the Packers pay a little bit more attention to, the quarterback position because, hey, Brett Favre is getting up there in age, but he's still got a few years left. Well, you know what? We have an opportunity to take this kid named Aaron Rodgers that we think could be a legitimate starter for us. Sorry, Brett. We'll draft him, have him learn behind you a little bit. Why not? And look how that works. Got them a Super Bowl.
And Love does look better than Pickett. Steelers freak. You're absolutely right.
Yes, he does. As of right now, Jordan Love looks like a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett. Now you can talk about the head coach, you can talk about the offensive coordinator, you can talk about that all you want. But the fact of the matter is that that's just stuff that's going to be used as a scapegoat for Kenny. And at the end of the day, a player's got to make plays. Now there is a level that Kenny can only hit in this offense, and part of it is like I talked, the lack of hot routes. That's not uncommon for teams with young quarterbacks. Young quarterbacks are already trying to figure out how to read defenses in the NFL, trying to throw something as complicated as hot routes and everything like that on top of it. It's you're kind of overstimulating them, and they won't be able to learn at a good rate. Quarterbacks like Ben could do that because he's seen every freaking defense possible.
Yeah, when you play forever, that's what happens.
Yeah, he can look at a certain defense and know blitz is coming from there. Deontay run this or Pat run this. Yeah, that's secondhand nature to him, or it's just a secondhand nature. It's second. Michael Scottism for you. That's second nature to him. But that's not for Kenny Pickett or a lot of other young quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett is not that's not a knock on him. It's just young quarterbacks.
All right. They're 7-6. 4 to play. They are at Indianapolis. They host the Bengals. They're at the Seahawks. And they're at the Ravens. Who I don't know where to go from here. I genuinely have no clue where to start with this team. Like, rhetorically, we've asked it in weeks past. Where do you start with this? And yeah, Biad, I'm not ruling that out, that they just lose out at this stage. The Steelers had a gift in front of them. Okay. 7-4 with a pair of 2-win teams walking into their building. And both times they showed up unprepared, outclassed, outmatched, period. All of it. All of it. Ezekiel Elliott, the ghost of Ezekiel Elliott, 28 years old, belly and all. 140 all-purpose yards. The Patriots dressed 4 wide receivers, and one of them was Matthew Slater, who hasn't caught a pass in the NFL since 2016. Let me rephrase that. Correct me. Targeted for a pass since 2016. They dressed 4 wide receivers. One was Matthew Slater. One was the ghost of Juju Smith-Schuster. And guess what? For the second week in a row, a former Steeler had his best game in that team's uniform, arguably, on that field at Acrisure Stadium.
Yep.
And Ezekiel Elliott looked like prime Ezekiel Elliott. 140 all-purpose yards. They did not have Ramondre Stevenson. They did not have 2 of their leading receivers. They let tight ends carve them up again.
Slap Murphy says it right there.
Yeah, I'll coach because Bill Belichick owns Mike Tomlin. This is nothing new.
It's not even just the head coach right there. And this is where, by the way, we've been talking about the offensive staff a lot. I'm done with Terrell Austin, by the way. He's
we need to have a conversation about Terrell Austin.
Yeah, Terrell Austin is
if
they, I don't know this for sure. So this is not something where I'm trying to pull some sort of insider information out of here. I'm not. This is just completely conjecture. But if they somehow had any kind of thought process between keeping Terrell Austin or Brian Flores, they chose wrong.
I would,
because
start asking questions about
because
that.
Look at what this defense did last year. Whenever it was Terrell Austin and then Brian Flores as a special assistant. I mean, it was a pretty good defense. It wasn't a great defense, but hey, they were tied for the league lead in interceptions. They did everything that they could without their best player for more than 7 games, and even for a lot of the other games he played was a shell of himself because he wasn't 100% healthy. There's a lot of change that has to happen this offseason, and that is one area why I'm not pounding my fist on the table saying Mike Tomlin should be fired yesterday. I'm just saying I really want to see what kind of change happens. And if it's another situation where Mike Tomlin promotes from within to hire an offensive coordinator, I'm done.
Or defensive coordinator. At this stage,
I mean, the
systems need change. Period. The systems need cleaned out. Clean it out. I'm not saying fire everybody. I'm not putting everybody on the line. Like you said, I like Eddie Faulkner as a running backs coach. I like Pat Meyer as a coach, although I think he needs better players. I like Grady Brown as a secondary coach.
I do like
Aaron
Grady. I
Curry.
do like Grady. I like the coaches on the defensive side.
I like Aaron Curry and I like Carl Dunbar. I like those position coaches a lot. But they need to figure it out from the top. They need to figure out the offensive coordinator, obviously. And now, I love the guy, Sharon, PA's finest, alongside me. You have to have a conversation about Terrell Austin as well.
Yeah.
Because I will give him the benefit of the doubt with the inside linebacker situation and losing Minka for a little bit. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But you have to evaluate him now on that spectrum. You have to do it in fairness.
Yeah.
Because it's been just as bad.
So Damon says here, I don't think Austin is a bad defensive coordinator. The offense has kept our defense on the field way too long. They're demoralized. That has been an issue. I'm not skirting around that at all. But in a game such as last night, that is mainly on, well, I almost say completely, but mainly on the defensive coordinator because they were out game planned. Right? The Patriots, when a team is able to put up 21 points in the first quarter and a half of a game, regardless of whether that second touchdown was on a short field, that is game planning.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Mark, I get what you're saying. Mark says the inside linebacker depth obliterated. New England took advantage. Highsmith got hurt. I get that to a level, but they still were handicapped 21 points.
Mm-hmm.
The offense was.
Yeah, and that as soon as you fall down 21-3, your game plan, your offensive game plan, whether it was good or bad, whatever, is out the window. It's completely gone. You're completely now calling things on the fly based off of what you've seen, and that's about it. Yeah. The game plan is gone at that point. So, when it comes to, and listen, the defense is not nearly as much to blame for where the Steelers are right now, but
no, the defense has won games for them this year.
Yes, they have, but the defense also isn't completely blameless here either. Like I said, when the Patriots put up 21 points in a quarter and a half from the get-go, when you let Bailey Zappi
makes me happy, baby.
When you let Bailey Zappi just march down the field on the opening series, I don't care about injuries. I don't care about it. Your main players are out there. Yes, inside linebackers were a problem last year. No, it's not like that they weren't a problem last year. I mean, you had Robert Spillane in pass coverage. Good Lord, everybody remember that? Remember Devin Bush just being on the field like it was bad.
Yeah,
as we talked
about
Hayward, they still had TJ Watt, they still had Minka, they still had Joey Porter Jr., they still had all their other playmakers. Yeah. Still let Bailey Zappi go down and score without any kind of pushback.
It's game planning.
Yes,
this is what Bill Belichick does. I'm going to make it sound simpler than it is. Take away the two best players on the offensive side of the ball. Take away the two best players on the defensive side of the ball, and let everybody else beat you. Look at what the Patriots did defensively. They took away both the running backs and George Pickens. Done. Cooked. Period. Deontay got the touchdown. They'll live with that. Mitch Trubisky has to throw it down the field. They'll live with that.
That was a heck of a catch, by the way.
It absolutely was.
That catch is he makes it look easy. That's not an easy catch.
No, he had to adjust for it. That was a great ball.
That was.
And then on the defensive side, right, for the Steelers, again, take their two best players away. Minka Fitzpatrick. Anytime Zeke Elliott touched the ball, Juju was on Minka, blocking him. Mm-hmm. Then you take away TJ Watt. And from there, let everybody else try to beat him. The symbol, all-encompassing symbol of this game for me was the Michael Walker interception, right? Consider the situation, consider the field position. The symbolism of every little bit of it. Elandon Roberts tips it. The veteran linebacker who's done really well, was probably the only bright spot, by the way, yesterday. Tips it, makes a good play. Michael Walker, the practice squad guy, hauls it in. And I have never seen anybody, I don't think, run slower in my life than not just Michael Walker, but watch the replay. And who makes the tackle? The ghost of Ezekiel Elliott. The ghost of Ezekiel Elliott catches up to Mike Walker and tackles him at the 16-yard line? And then they fail to score.
Yeah.
And then they fail to score.
Yeah.
That's the symbol of the game to me. And maybe even of the season, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's that one in terms of like actual game stuff, I don't agree with the decision to go for it on fourth down there. You have to at least get points. As much ridicule as you would get for only getting a field goal after the defense gives you the ball at the 16-yard line.
The Larry Brown intercept. God.
Yeah.
That's good. Sorry,
you still have to come away with points there. You have to. And there are people who are clamoring, saying, well, if they kick the field goal there, then they get to block punt. Like, listen, I don't know. It's not guaranteed that you get a blocked punt on the next series, because if it's a one-score game, I highly doubt Mike Tomlin tells Danny Smith, call a block.
Yeah.
That's just not that doesn't fall in line with the Mike Tomlin way of coaching. Down 2 scores. And times, fourth quarter is going to be starting pretty soon, or if it was already the fourth quarter, I can't remember. But you're kind of, games, end of the game is getting a lot closer now. You're down 2 scores. All right, call a block. I don't know if they call a block if it's 21-13 instead of 21-10. So I don't know what happens. But either way, that play, if you get a stop, you get the ball back, and you go down and you do happen to score, it's 21-21 instead of 21-18. But I don't like the decision to.
You know what's crazy, Rick? Rick says, "How are you not laughing and crying at the Connor Hayward pass?"
Oh,
you know what's crazy?
Terrible.
It was terrible, but in moment I was like,
Oh no way.
If Jabril Peppers doesn't jump the route, it's a touchdown.
No, he underthrew him. He underthrew him. I know he.
Never mind.
He underthrew him. It's like, dude. It's one of those
moment
things
I was like,
no, I don't like it. I hated it. As soon as I saw the handoff I didn't even know what was happening. As soon as I saw the handoff to Connor, I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, the goal line is a yard away.
Yeah.
Punch
it in.
You got to run the damn football. If you can't do it in 4 tries, running quarterback sneaks or halfback dives, whatever it is, then you don't deserve to score. But that's what you should be doing for 4 plays in a row, unless you get pushed back or take a penalty or whatever. But if you're on the 1-yard line, forward 4 times.
They're built to run the damn football. And if I had a nickel for every time they went into shotgun with a short yardage situation with Najee freaking Harris in the backfield, I'd be a rich man right now, because that's what they decided to do on those situations.
Mr. CJ Jr. says, remember, this is still Canada's playbook. Yes, and the people who have taken over that playbook are actually somehow doing a worse job with it. Somehow. Because the offense looks even worse than it did under Matt Canada.
If you want to barf your lunch up, go look up George Pickens' route tree when he was targeted.
Yeah, it's just, like
what you do.
And if it's not just the fact of lack of production, you also throw in all of the procedural penalties. You throw in all the other stuff where it's like obvious lack of detail. And that was supposed to be one of the things that was praised about Eddie Faulkner, is his attention to detail, constant coaching of, protecting the football and everything like that. So you would hope that would carry over into, the game planning aspect of being interim OC. It ain't happening. It's just not happening. So
burped, belch, because that's like lunch coming back up after thinking about George Pickens' route tree and Connor Hayward throwing a pass and going pistol formation and a toss sweep 5 times. Hallelujah, holy bleep. I don't have Tylenol, but I have.
And this offense continues to be insanely predictable. They run on 1st and 10 every time. They run on 2nd and long every time. The run on 2nd and 17 just baffles me. I mean, it just baffles me. It just that one guy. I don't care that they got 7 yards and made it 3rd and 10. I don't care. It's a terrible play call. Again, you're trying to. It seems like there's no attention to analytics or playing the percentages at all. If there was, a go route on 4th and 2 is not what you call. If you do that, running the football on 2nd and 17 is not what you call. That's why there has to be at minimum an overhaul of what the Steelers are on offense. If that means it's a good quarterback class coming up, if that means, and I'm not completely ruling this out, take a quarter. If one of those quarterbacks falls to you, or if you have an opportunity to trade up and get one, push Kenny Pickett a little bit.
At least consider it.
Give yourself options.
Consider it.
Give yourself options. I mean,
listen,
you have at least two. You have almost 2 full seasons now. Almost 2 full seasons of Kenny Pickett, and I have not seen enough to be like for sure. Oh yeah, he's definitely the guy going forward. I have still enough intrigue and wiggle room to be like he still could be the guy, but I don't know for sure. And if you don't know for sure, give yourself more options.
Listen, my final point, because we ran really long today, and I appreciate you all being here, joining us
in a few minutes
live on the Southside Beat. Everything needs to be on the table this offseason, period. Everything. Yeah. All the cards need to be laid out. There's no one should be safe. And I'm not saying fire everybody. I'm not going to do that. What I'm saying is everything, every person, everybody, coach, personnel, player, the water boys, everybody needs to be looked at in some capacity in this offseason and then go from there. Mm-hmm. Everything should be on the table. First round quarterback, new head coach, new coordinators, plural, everything has to be on the table. We have a month to get there, though. Mm-hmm. In 1 month's time, technically, we could be still talking about postseason. Mathematically, I should say.
Yep.
We are a long way from there.
Yeah. Last thought for me. And this is where Mr. CJ Jr. coming in again. He says, got to draft the defensive lineman or center before quarterback. This is where I'm kind of wanting the Steelers to go back to what they used to do. Draft the best player available. I don't care what position he plays. I don't think that there's a player on this roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that you can look at and be like, we're set there. We cannot possibly get any better there. Can you get better than Najee Harris? Yes, you can. Can you get better than Jaylen Warren? As good as Jaylen Warren has been? Yes, you can. Can you get better than any of the 5 guys?
More than 9 carries too, by the way.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying, and I don't advocate taking a running back in the first round, especially when you have Najee and Jaylen.
Good point. Roderick Jones is safe, I think.
Yes, but again, like even then, I'm just saying, Kenny Pickett is not above being replaced right now. Deontay Johnson is not above being replaced right now. George Pickens is not above being replaced right now. Nobody on that offense. If the best player available at whatever you're picking happens to be a potential future franchise quarterback that fell because he's got small hands, or he didn't impress in this interview, or he drives a Chevy instead of a Ford, whatever the reason.
That's a dumb reason to not take I get what you mean, though.
Yeah, I'm using hyperbole and exaggeration. I'm just saying, whatever the reason, if you feel like that's a potential franchise quarterback, you take the guy. If it's the best player available on your board, take him. I don't care what position he plays. The Steelers don't do that anymore. They have now started drafting more for need than they had taking the best player available, i.e. Devin Bush. Stop doing it.
Enough said.
That's my final thought. Even though it's way looking ahead into the draft and everything like that, that's my final thought. That way, I want to see the Steelers get back to the Steelers way. But either way, change has to happen this offseason in a big way.
I gave my final thought.
Yeah.
Everything's on the table. Has to be.
Yep.
That includes front office. That includes Mike Tomlin. That includes players. That includes the water boy. That includes the person that prepares the snacks, the orange slices for after practice, if you will. Mm-hmm. The Gatorade cooler. Everybody needs to be looked at.
Dan Moore and Chooks are cut options for me, by the way.
There you go.
Phillips comment there. Sorry. And Allen Robinson is the easiest $10 million you can save.
Whew.
Good Lord. That's $10 million back in your pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll take a weekend. We'll find a way to wash it away. The Steelers will do that. It's technically a short week. By that spectrum, it's a mini bye combined with a short week. It's weird.
Just one day, yeah. Oh,
that's Chris's
my alarm is going off.
That's Chris's alarm. So let's get out of here. It's a short week next week. Tomlin Monday. Mike Tomlin Monday. Everything's pushed up a day. So Mike Tomlin Monday. We'll reconvene after that here on the Southside Beat. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for chiming in. Reminder, live at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday here on DK Pittsburgh Sports on YouTube, and then later in podcast form, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. DK and Ramon. Oh, this will be a good one. 15 minutes. DK and Ramon. The bell will be ringing. Stay locked into that. He's Chris Halicke. I'm Corey Crisan. This has been the Southside Beat. Have a good weekend, everybody. Cheers.